Hello, boys and girls. Do I have a treat for you today? We've got Bekins of Team Italy against arguably the greatest Pokemon player of all time, Earthworm. A true legend in every sense of the word. When he signed up for this World Cup, people were shitting themselves. And he is most known for his heroics in the DPP era, but he is no mean GSC. And he has shown it by playing it in SPL quite a bit. Bekins is not to be taken lightly, though. He is quite fearsome, and he has been around for a while. And he switches his Exeggutor out of Snorlax, thinking, I don't want to play a Giga Drain Pursuit game, since I can just, I'll probably lose that anyway, and I'd rather just take the Pursuit. And Snorlax takes the Rock Slide and dodges the Dynamic Punch, while Earthquake deals a nice 37 to the Tyranitar. So, we know this isn't a Monolax, as Bekins makes a bad Egg Pun right in less than 3 turns in, and you already see bad jokes. So, I would suppose Earthworm probably wants this T-Tar to be a little healthier, so he's going to switch out to his counter. He said, what's the worst he can do? He's not going to threaten a sweep turn 2. That doesn't happen in this gen. And he can, if he can get damage off on the Lax, then, great. He knows it's set now. And similarly, Bekins can make some assumptions about Earthworm's Tyranitar as well, although I am not experienced enough to tell you what Rock Slide and Dynamic Punch does or doesn't mean. I mean, it could still run Cur, and that's because T-Tar does have a lot of good options, but I don't have the raw experience to be able to tell you, oh, I guess he's, going for and Bekins gets the 75% chance to not be touched by a single Dynamic Punch. And so now Earthworm finally sends out a Skarmory. Now, Snorlax also has a billion possibilities for its moveset, and Tyranitar could also run Curse and Roar and Fire Blast and even Thunderbolt and Pursuit and Crunch and yada yada. So we don't see Fire Blast from the Lax, which, not expected. I mean, Earthquake Fire Blast is generally seen on Boom sets. So I guess we're just looking at a Curse or Belly Drummer as Skarmory takes that Earthquake and steals the Zapdos' leftovers before going to the Perpetual Zapdos wall. Raikou and tossing out a Thunder of his own after dodging Bekins's. And dealing a nice 26 to Lax and setting up Reflect. So Earthworm is using a team style which he has a penchant for, which is really, really bulky teams that focus on, spreading status. And I would assume that he's got a Marowak in the wings along with a Drumlax. Perhaps Lovely Kiss Drumlax, since he's got the Tyranitar for Pursuit, and he gets that Tyranitar in on the Forced Rest. Very nicely done there. He was trying to force the Lax to rest so he could bring Tyranitar in and get some leftovers recovery. So, nicely played there, and he throws out a Rock Slide as Bekins tries to absorb the Dynamic Punch with Exeggutor, but eats a Rock Slide instead. I suppose he says, the Bekins knows more than me what Dynamic Punch and Earthquake Rock Slide might mean together, meaning maybe the Crunch odds aren't great, so he can perhaps go for some Giga Drain healing. We see Pursuit, we see Giga Drain after the Rock Slide flinch, and that Giga Drain is going to put it barely out of range of the damage. Earthworm could switch out and try this again later, since Exeggutor won't really want to switch in on anything. But unless he might either go for a flinch, or I don't know the calc off the top of my head. But let's say I would say he probably wouldn't want to risk it, even if he does have a chance to kill, unless those are 2 really low rolls, which somehow that doesn't feel right. That those are like the absolute minimum rolls. So, Rock Slide, and there's another flinch, so Pursuit is going to take this Exeggutor out. And Spectorito, not happy about that. Earthworm, also in his prime, had a penchant, well, maybe not in his prime, but in a couple of years ago, when I was more involved in the scene, I learned that Earthworm has a reputation for being very lucky. And you might point to the Dynamic Punch misses, but that's Dynamic Punch. So, I would say that the double rock slide flinch, they're really, well, I suppose Exeggutor wouldn't have been doing a hell of a lot at such low health. I mean, he could maybe do what Earthworm did and get on a resting mon to threaten an explosion, or perhaps, you know, try to get some paralysis on Skarmory with Stun Spore, or maybe try to sleep something, since the Raikou probably isn't Rest Talk with Reflect. But yeah, that's unfortunate. And now the worst part is he has to reveal another Well, I guess he has Zapdos, but Zapdos just gets met with Raikou. Although he can try to capitalize on that. But yeah, it would have been nicer if he could scout. Well, then Skarm would have come in after, and we'll see. We'll see. There's Cloyster, so I'm expecting a Starmie from Earthworm. He liked using that. There's Starmie as he comes in on the surf. This could get toxicked by the Cloyster. That's a common tactic. And we see a Snorlax Ditto. Earthworm, I'm guessing the Drumlax is... And I would assume that Marowak is the last. It looks, you know, like a typical Earthworm team. Well, not an Earthworm team, but a standard team that he liked to use. Standard style of team. Anyway, so we see Lax's Earthworm's, you know, is probably Drum, and which isn't going to really, you know, sweep right through the boom offense type thing that Bekins looks to have, especially since there's most likely a Steelix or something. But it can definitely do some damage. Well, then again, there's the Cloyster. Perhaps he can go to Cloyster. Well, Earthworm probably fishes for some Body Slam para, unless he's the Drumlax that prefers to go with Double Edge to a KO Skarm at +6. And if he has Toxic, then, you know, and he might also want to consider exploding the Starmie if his last is Machamp. No, we see Golem. So we see a Curse from Lax, not a Drum. Golem is an interesting Pokemon, you know, it's got the whole ground deal. It's got the ground and rock deal, you know, it's sort of like Steelix and Tyranitar put together with the explosion. And to top things off, it also gets Rapid Spin, and it can also hit Skarm pretty hard with Fire Blast, although Starmie can probably, you know, sit in on it, as we see from Earthworm switching it in. And Roar, I didn't know that Golems ran Roar. I assumed it was generally along the lines of Earthquake, Fire Blast, Rapid Spin, Explosion. Sometimes Rock Slide if your team doesn't really need Rapid Spin. So, interesting choice at Bekins' end for sure. So, I would assume that we're just going to see... Well, Earthworm wants to be wary of having a Skarm eat anything, since he would like to keep it. Well, we see it right there, so I take that back. Well, I guess one Fire Blast doesn't really screw him, especially since the Bekins Lax probably doesn't have a fire move, and so I would assume Bekins takes advantage of the Raikou very nicely. Standard there. So he's going to try and burn the thing awake. Burn some sleep turns. Unless he is like Rest Talk, Earthquake, Return, which wouldn't be horrible, actually, you know, if he really wants to spread paralysis and also wants to get, like, Tyranitar out of his way and not be totally useless against, like, ghosts. Another cool thing about Golem and its spinning is that its Earthquake crushes ghosts, you know, it's something it shares with Donphan. So, and we see Machamp, so, you know, Machamp over Marowak, but yeah, this is looking pretty typical of Earthworm. And, we'll see how Bekins can deal with it. Earthworm, you know, sometimes you play the long game and you force shit to rest, and then you know, just force something dangerous like Machamp on him, so nicely done. Although I know I missed the opportunity to make a kill, and what turn did whatever turn Exeggutor died, it was like barely 10 turns in. So we see Rock Slide on the Zapdos, but it is not going to a KO. And Earthworm can just continue to do this unless Bekins starts forcing something, like with Spikes. If he spikes with Cloyster and explodes on Starmie, then, you know, Golem actually becomes relatively dangerous. Quite dangerous, I should say, since Machamp can't exactly OHKO it with Cross Chop. So I think against a team like this, you know, you do what Bekins did with the Zapdos against Scarm thing, for example. You know, he's got a switch, you take advantage of that, you put pressure on, he goes for the Thunder. Oh, we see Cross Chop, that's a nice move, I suppose, since even if Zapdos rests, then without leftovers, it's still in Rock Slide 2 KO range, and it covers the possibility of a double switch against, with Snorlax trying to come into Raikou, so very nice on Earthworm's end there. The only thing I don't like about Machamp is that, it runs out of Cross Chop PP real quick. You know, 8 is not good in general, but, you know, something like DBP Heat Train with Fire Blast, you know, what's the big deal? It almost never runs out of PP, in most games. But, you know, you gotta be real careful about your uses. But that was a very intelligent use of it right there. So, Deep Scarm, you know, some people think it's, but it's really, you know, in games like this, situations like this, it really proves its worth. So now we see a rest. And Rock Slide, he's gonna go for that. The chances of hitting Sleep Talk Thunder are 80, so he could, you know, sort of force the issue, but he decides, hey, you know what, I got my hit off, I'm gonna go to Raikou now. So, Bekins sleeps and is back at full and has a sleep counter at 2 again, so, you know, decent for him. And Snorlax comes in, since Earthworm doesn't really have any reservation about tossing out those Thunders. And the presence of the ground type is generally, you know, enough to dissuade them. Since, but, you know, I guess maybe he just doesn't have hidden power, but, you know, is realistic. Since if he doesn't have Roar, well, Roar is great for scouting at the beginning of the game. And, it also means that his only phaser, unless Tyranitar has Roar, isn't weak to Thunder, thus making him weak to certain variants of Mischievous. So Snorlax has to sleep again, and Machamp comes back in. So Snorlax wakes up this turn, and the Cross Chop it maxes out at 76%. I think it does 66% minimum. And the reason I know this calc off the top of my game is because I played a GSC game not long before this one, and I had to make that calc. So I'm not that good at GSC, guys, but so I don't really see many. See, Earthworm. Oh, I did not expect that. I suppose he expected, you know, Rock Slide. Like, hey man, don't waste your Cross Chops. I got the Zapdos. Rock Slide up. So he went to Cloyster, but Earthworm just throws one out. I guess now he's only got 6 though, and granted, Bekins has a pretty offensive team, but, you know, we see a nice move there on Bekins' end, either absorbing the Cross Chop or fucking with the Starmie switch in. Very nice. So we're going to see another Raikou, or maybe Snorlax switching from Earthworm. So, I guess he wants to burn Sleep Turns, that's fair. I would have tried to capitalize on that a bit more, though. And now Snorlax is back in. He's going to throw out some body slams, I'd assume. Nothing from Earthworm's team really loves taking the paralysis. He's probably just going to... Well, he can also try to 1v1 it. He's been hitting a lot of those Thunders. And forcing it to rest again with Reflect, so he can continue terrorizing with Machamp. Playing it very nicely. And I think Bekins really is going to have to start making something happen. We see Body Slam. He just doesn't want to risk a Machamp, and he doesn't want to risk Raikou getting screwed over. Although Raikou comes into Zapdos all day and isn't really needed super badly for anything else, as far as I see right now. So, although the last has pretty good odds of being a Growth Vaporeon, so we'll see. And he would want to keep it alive for that, especially when Tyranitar isn't really that useful. And now he gets another chance to throw out some Dynamic Punches. Another great move with APP. And accuracy that makes Cross Chop look like Aerial Ace. So, we're going to see some D punches thrown out here. And nothing on Bekins' team wants to switch into. That's another thing. If he loses T-Tar, you know, big deal. But if it can get its shit together, then it can also dish out quite a bit of damage. Unless the last is, of course, Vaporeon, in which case I think it might be time to reveal it. Granted, also, Raikou is really the only thing saving Earthworm against that Vaporeon, because, you know, Lax doesn't really love facing it, especially Acid Armor variants, unless the Starmie is a Light Screen variant, which would probably be able to PP stall it. And I'm really wondering what the Cloyster moveset is, because he could be trying to make something happen with him, in my opinion. So, the last, for Bekins, another option is perhaps that. Okay. So, nice thing, and Gengar is also a game changer, actually. He's dangerous as hell. If he explodes the Raikou, then Zapdos becomes, you know, those Thunders are going to pound Snorlax. You think that Raikou's doing a lot to it, you should see what Zapdos does. Voulez-vous indeed. Unfortunately for it, as it tries to Thunderbolt, then, well, Gengar is also a game changer because he can try to make something happen against Starmie's spins, although Cloyster taking that cross chop is really limiting its effectiveness in being able to come in and threaten the spike and the explosion. Because it'll die to a Psychic now, so he's going to have to make some plays there too. Also, with Raikou against Gengar, not only does it have Reflect, and it's faster, that Explosion doesn't even OHKO, so he's going to have to chip it down somewhere. It's not as simple as click, boom, kill Raikou. So, however, now Golem comes in, and that's nice on Bekins' end, because now Earthworm eating an Earthquake in order to set up Reflecting it probably isn't something he wants to do. So I would maybe even chance a switch to Cloyster here. Oh, that would have worked out. I guess he wanted to go to Snorlax on the... No, he wasn't going to Snorlax on the Hidden Power. He was going to it on the... I don't know what he was going to it on. Oh, we do see Fire Blast. Very nicely concealed. We see a 3-attack rest Snorlax. That is not something that crossed my mind. And personally, I haven't seen it, or even seen mention of it anywhere. And I've been reading for GSC quite some time. I know that very great credentials. But nicely done on Bekins' end there. However, Snorlax comes in, you know, Bekins tries to catch the Tyranitar switch, although I think Body Slam might have been better there. And Bekins probably knows this is a mono Curse-Lax with Pursuit Tyranitar support, which also might mean there might not be Psychic on Starmie, since he might be relying on Tyranitar to get rid of the Gengar in the first place, so, you know, it's like, why bother with this? Although, it is his Machamp counter, and his Scarm doesn't have Curse, so he might still have it regardless. But, just saying that the possibility of Pursuit Tar makes something like, say, I don't know, Toxic or Light Screen a bit more likely. Or even Thunder Wave. So, we'll see, what... Gengar's only shown Thunderbolt. It's got a bunch of game-changing moves, man. It's got, you know, your Mean Look, your Perish Song. If this is a Mean Look Perish Song set, and this is a Monolax that wants to, you know, play the field, so to speak, then it would get shut down for absolutely nothing. Shut down. It would get killed for nothing. And that Tyranitar is still alive, you know, kind of, you know, screwing with Bekins when he would have probably enjoyed not having it around. You know, that would have been a Body Slam that Snorlax would have taken. Although, granted, if it is Monolax, like I suspect it is, or even Fire Blast Lax, you know, APP against Gengar, it's nothing. Then, you know, so, wasn't it something? Oh, we see Explosion on him, trying to catch Raikou, not quite killing the Lax. I'm not sure if that was wise. I'm really not. Oh, man. I guess Golem can kind of, you know, screw with things right now, but I'm not sure about that. Since he didn't even guarantee it, and Snorlax can try to rest up on a Snorlax speed tie. Granted, it's a tie, but or like Zapdos Sleep Talk, and especially because he's getting leftovers as soon as Bekins sends his next do that. I am not sure I agree with that at all. Granted, I don't know his moveset, but bring it down a little, you know. And I mean, he's got Golem to roar it out. Maybe he was afraid of Curse Earthquake. But, I don't know, man. So, Bekins' timer's going down. There's Golem. Are we going to see an Earthworm sack? I mean, Starmie kinda switches in and doesn't really mind if it's boom down at this stage in the game. So, oh, we see Rock Slide, nice. Maybe Earthworm's not really considering the possibility of Fire Blast Golem, since I guess Skarm's value diminished greatly with the reveal of Fire Blast on Lax, so, you know, big deal. And he might even pivot to Starmie right here on Fire Blast. Oh no, he's gonna rest. Are we gonna see another Rock Slide? We're gonna see... What are we gonna see? I think, you know... Bekins losing his Exeggutor, you know, is kind of annoying, to say the least. But he also made some moves I don't really agree with. There's Zapdos. Are we gonna see Golem come in and try to... I hope it's Fire Blast Golem, or... Well, he's gonna have to make something happen with the Snorlax, for sure. But that Raikou has been, you know, reflecting and screwing with it big time, and I don't think Sleep Talking... Well, maybe he's trying to paralyze it and force it to rest. That would make things a little easier for sure. But now he goes back to Golem, I would assume, on the Reflect, and... See, I feel like Bekins is just making attacks when he doesn't really have to. He should be, you know, looking for an opportunity. Get some more leftovers on that Cloyster. You know, something. I don't know his Cloyster set, but surely he has some way of dealing with Starmie. You know, Toxic or Icy Wind and threatening the Boom and something. So, see, like, even that attack there, I would have, you know, why waste that Earthquake and give him the advantage? You know, go back to Zapdos, scare it out. Waste the Reflect turns, then go to Golem. Not to mention, because if that, you know, ×2, that's 42. Starmie could give a shit about that. Now he gets a relatively hard hit off, considering there's no leftovers. It's almost a 3 KO. And the Thunder's missing, and we're going to see a rest from Bekins here, I'm almost certain. Since Raikou 2 KOs it at this point. And Raikou beats Zapdos anyway. The most Zapdos can hope to do is... Wow, why is he thundering? I think he's just giving up. Now he dies to Starmie, even. So, back comes Golem. He can't even... I guess he could double to Snorlax here to try to make something happen. So... But... Why is he going to Zapdos? That was the obvious switch, and Starmie kills it. I guess... Now he goes to Snorlax and he eats a Surf he didn't have to. I'm not sure what he was trying to catch with that Zapdos double. Maybe Machamp? Well, he wasn't going to Machamp. He's holding that shit back. So, at the very least, though, Machamp, Reflect's gone, and this Snorlax can do quite some damage. Body Slam, no para. That's... So he doesn't really have a great switch into this Tyranitar either. He's probably going to have to hope for either Dynamic Punch. I guess he would be satisfied with the 75% chance of not hitting himself in Confusion, which he does not get, 25%. So if he would have taken that Tyranitar out, he could have rested on Starmie and then, you know, continued to try to make something happen if he was able to dance around. But I think this is going to end with a 6-0, which... Well, maybe not a 6-0, but... this... Yeah... Earthworm gets the 25% and kills it. So... What do we even see come out here? Golem? If he took Tyranitar out of commission, he probably could have made something happen with Snorlax, as long as he was able to dance around with Champ. Here comes Cloyster, and he explodes. He does... Well... I guess, you know, there was no real point. Why would Earthworm keep the Tyranitar, you know? That was... I guess it was desperate. You have to be desperate in a situation like that, but... I just don't agree with that. And I'll say GG. So this one's over, as Starmie is going to finish the game off. So thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you all later.